Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be reacting to a channel that I haven't reacted to on my channel before, so it's new to me even though I've been subscribed for a long time. It's Star Wars Theory. This one is a fantasy battles one. It's can Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith beat Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi. This one really caught my attention because obviously Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith and Luke from Return of the Jedi are kind of, I don't want to say at the height of their power because Luke still had some, Luke was still coming into his power in Return of the Jedi, but regardless, it should be a really interesting fight. So, yeah, as always, I'll link the original video in the description below. I don't have much to say other than if you haven't checked out his channel, go check out his channel. He has a myriad of different stuff from fantasy battles to Star Wars what ifs, like in an alternate Star Wars reality. It's just an amazing channel, so I encourage you to go check him out. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it, see what we got.
Hey guys, free saber giveaway at 20K on Theory Sabers. Go follow and comment on some of the posts now.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Who was more powerful, Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi or Obi-Wan Kenobi in Revenge of the Sith? This is a playlist of videos that I used to cover about 7 years ago here on the channel. You can go ahead and find them. I have a ton of different videos of who is more powerful and why did they lose. Both different series, but extremely fun and interesting to watch. So let's get back to basics with today's video discussing who was more powerful, Luke or Obi-Wan. So determining who is more powerful, Luke's version in Return of the Jedi from the 1983 movie, or Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith, which was done in 2005, requires a very deep dive into their lightsaber combat, force powers, and the advantages and disadvantages each possessed. Not to mention, we have to really know each character and know their psychology in and out of combat. So, let's get to it. First, we have lightsaber combat. Now, Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith was a master of lightsaber combat. He embodied the Jedi ideal of defense and control, wielding his blue lightsaber and specializing in Form 3 Surisu, which was known for its very, very capable defense abilities, to not only deflect blaster fire, but also oncoming lightsaber opponents. And I say that because, well, Anakin as a Jedi or Sith was no match for Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's iconic battles we have to take note of: General Grievous, Darth Maul, not to mention all of his ones in the Clone Wars. We're gonna ignore Count Dooku, of course. All of these battles showcase—
Yeah, Form 3's only weakness is, Form 2, oh crap. I want to say Ataru, but that's Form 4. If you can remember what Form 2 is, the one Form Count Dooku uses if you're a Star Wars fan, let me know in the comments. I can't remember the name, but that's Form 3's only weakness because Form 2 is specifically meant for one-on-one lightsaber combat. I do know that much. Let me know in the comments if you can remember the name, because it's eluding me right now.
His mastery of deflecting a barrage of attacks, whether it be on the battlefield during the Clone Wars or in tight combat with another lightsaber. Obi-Wan's ability to have patience and wait for his opponent to make a mistake or leave an opening and take that moment to strike is what made him a master of Form 3 Surisu and a master of lightsaber combat. Now, Luke Skywalker, on the other hand, his skills were still very raw in Return of the Jedi. He received basic training from Obi-Wan's ghost and further instruction from Yoda on Dagobah. Now, in The Empire Strikes Back, there was a deleted scene where Yoda was actually instructing Luke on how to use his lightsaber, but sadly it didn't make it in the film, but you can still find it on YouTube. While Luke possessed natural talent and bravery, his reliance on aggression and brute force left him vulnerable to a skilled opponent. His impulsive nature is evident in his duel with Vader in Episode 5 and 6, where he loses his control and nearly falls to the dark side. Now, Obi-Wan, having fought Anakin on Mustafar, never fell to his emotions. When Maul killed Satine, he never fell to his emotions. And that's why Obi-Wan is revered as the fandom's favorite for what a true Jedi really is. So in terms of lightsaber combat, if we're going to discuss Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett, or Mandalorian Season 2, that's another video we can do. However, for this one, in lightsaber combat, Obi-Wan Kenobi wins. His mastery, and particularly his defensive prowess, And just overall his experience would allow him to deflect most of Luke's attacks and exploit the openings that Sarisu really masterfully does for a decisive counter or kill. Alright, the next one's a little more difficult.
Okay, before we get into that, what form or variant of forms, because I think Luke used a variation of forms, lightsaber forms, in his own lightsaber style, didn't he? What form or forms was that? Also let me know in the comments, because I know a lot about this stuff. Obviously, I don't know everything, and I'm always willing to learn, so yeah, let me know.
Powers. So let's go for Obi-Wan's first. Obi-Wan had a very weak connection in the Force. He really was not that gifted like some others, like Anakin or Mace Windu or Yoda. However, it was his discipline that made him become extremely gifted with the Force, and his discipline to continuously study and meditate and practice. He was quite skilled in telekinesis, as seen in his use of the Force pull to Grievous's droid Magna Guards.
So uncivilized.
And deflecting, of course, blaster fire. Not to mention, he was pretty darn proficient in Jedi mind tricks, like mind tricking the stormtroopers when they didn't need to see any identification.
Classic.
Now, Luke's Force potential was, I would say, 100 times or 1,000 times what Obi-Wan's could be. And this, of course, was shown by his telekinetic abilities during his training with Yoda. He was already able to lift that sunken X-Wing briefly until he failed because he just didn't believe in himself. The only thing that Luke lacks in this field is experience and the time that he's put into training. So, Return of the Jedi Luke, albeit very powerful, I mean, walking into Jabba's palace and choking the guards like that, and just having this ability in the Force and this confidence, I personally would have to give this one to Luke Skywalker. While Obi-Wan did have much more experience and control, I feel like Luke's raw potential was just undeniable. In a purely telekinetic battle, I think Luke would win, especially if he was provoked in some sort of way where he wouldn't be able to control his emotions and just lash out and probably supersede any sort of abilities that he had at the moment. Next, let's go over their strengths and weaknesses. Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi's strengths were, of course, he was masterful as a duelist, he had strong connections to the Force because of his training, and he had a very strategic mind. He had a really good battle experience. However, his weaknesses were that he just wasn't as powerful as Luke in the Force, both in potential and his ability overall with the Force, comparing Return of the Jedi to Revenge of the Sith. Now, I know that one's probably going to be pretty controversial. Some people will say, hey, no way, Obi-Wan was way more powerful in the Force. But I really beg to differ. I feel like if Luke was really provoked and pushed, I think he would do some pretty insane things. Now, Luke's strengths, of course, he had this huge Force potential. He had a very strong moral compass and unwavering determination. His weakness here against Obi-Wan is really just his lack of experience in lightsaber combat and his Force control. He's kind of just like all over the place. In comparison to Obi-Wan, who's much more fine-tuned, and his problem is he's susceptible to anger and emotional manipulation, whereas Obi-Wan, he stood the test of every possible test you could throw at him. You know, Satine dying, Qui-Gon dying, Anakin turning against him, the whole Jedi Order falling apart. We also have to look at their psychology. Obi-Wan was extremely calm, experienced, and level-headed. Super pragmatic, but also extremely by the book. And this is something that always just kind of rubbed me the wrong way about Obi-Wan, is that he was so book smart, but he wasn't as much street smart. I remember in the novel Master and Apprentice with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan was really good at studying texts, Jedi texts and prophecies. And I remember Qui-Gon was once thinking that when he was Obi-Wan's age, he was so much more advanced in the Force and as a Jedi. I think a lot can be said about this and the fact that Obi-Wan just really wasn't that gifted at all, and he really had to work hard to get to where he was. Harder than others, which in turn is what made him so disciplined and great. Now,
Count Dooku, Qui-Gon, and Anakin, and even to a certain extent Luke are predominant examples of how natural talent pays off, and then Obi-Wan is certainly fine example of how hard work pays off. So, you know, it goes both ways, but alright, let's see what we got.
Like Luke, if he were to fight Obi-Wan, he probably would have a pretty hard time in terms of lightsaber combat and overall control, but I feel like he would beat him in the end because he probably would let his emotions get to him or get the best of him in some sort of way. And all it would take is maybe Obi-Wan saying something about Vader or his father or something like that, and Luke could just lose it a little bit. And this could, of course, have the Anakin effect where you are blinded by your own emotions. So that could be a danger. However, Luke in Return of the Jedi is just so unbelievably calm and collected himself
For the most
and
part.
controlled. However, I don't think he is as controlled in this point of his life as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maybe in a few years, So, the verdict. Who wins in this battle? Who is more powerful? While Luke's force potential was of course undeniable, he is a Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi's years of experience as a Jedi Knight and Jedi Master give him an edge here. It's just time, it's just experience. His mastery of lightsaber combat, particularly his defensive skills, would likely allow him to deflect most of Luke's attacks, and I would say wait for some sort of an opening to strike, kind of like what he did against Anakin or really anybody. Additionally, Obi-Wan's experience in using the Force for telekinesis and mind tricks could give him an advantage against Luke as well, who is a little less refined with his abilities.
Oh,
However, this doesn't go to say that Luke doesn't have any potential or take away anything from him. He possessed immense raw power. We have to remember that. And given sufficient training, he would have surpassed Obi-Wan. Well, he did surpass Obi-Wan. The glimpse of his potential is evident in his ability to momentarily disarm Vader, a feat that highlights his natural talent and the danger that he could pose to a seasoned Jedi Master with more experience. Now, of course, I would argue that Vader wasn't really full-on trying to kill Luke,
No,
his
he
son.
wasn't.
He was merely just toying with him and trying to pull the dark side out of him.
Just like in, same in Return of the Jedi, just like in Empire Strikes Back, Vader was always toying with him. He never wanted to kill Luke.
This is why I don't really think that that battle was true in nature, but still, it never should have allowed Luke to get the upper hand on Vader if Vader was really that much better. So ultimately, I think the outcome of this hypothetical duel would really depend on several factors, including Luke's emotional state and his ability to tap into his raw force potential. But considering their skill sets at the time of the respective films, Obi-Wan's experience and mastery would likely grant him a victory. You just can't really compare Luke and his limited experience on the battlefield compared to Obi-Wan and his experience during the Battle of Geonosis, during the Clone Wars of itself, against all the other Jedi and Sith that he had to fight during whether it be the Clone Wars or Order 66, or later on after that. Now, there's a few last things I want to leave you guys with. So the analysis, of course, focuses on Luke in Return of the Jedi and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. So if we consider Luke at a much later point in his life, even just a few years, I think the gap in power might considerably be narrowed. And of course, what I really like to drive home with these kinds of videos is that the power of two characters doesn't rely solely on a lightsaber, but more so their psychology of who they are and how they would actually be in a fight. What can you do to provoke them? What can you do to take them off their center? Is there anything at all? And I think that's something that's always really fun to explore and have fun with. So this battle I would give to Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it's extremely close, and I'm a huge Luke fan, so it's pretty difficult to do this, but Obi-Wan, I think, takes this one as the winner. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it, and if you want me to do another versus battle or who is more powerful series, let me know who we should put together. Have an awesome day, and may the Force be with you always.
All right, wow, that was really interesting. Yeah, one thing I forgot to say about that is another reason, at least in, maybe not so much in Revenge of the Sith, but another reason that in Attack of the Clones, Obi-Wan lost to Count Dooku, well, they both did. Anakin was just, pure emotion and just raw talent, but unrefined. Obviously, he didn't have the experience. But Obi-Wan, he was kind of, in Attack of the Clones, he was kind of in between two lightsaber fighting styles. Like, he was kind of falling out of practice with Form 4, the form that Qui-Gon used, and he wasn't yet that proficient in Form 3. So he was kind of in that in-between area where Count Dooku could just easily grab the upper hand. But yeah, if you have any other comments on this or what you think of this video in general, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if there's anything else you want me to react to from this channel, or music or compilations, anything at all, let those be known in the comments below too. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And I guess that's going to do it for this one. All right, see you guys.